Let me give you a little tidbit of let me help you with your hosting a little bit here. It's your debut and it's going perfectly fine. How about I give you an easy segue into your next one? Does the journey, the debate, and the battle between Matvei Michkov and his other player playing in the World Juniors this year, or maybe playing in the World Juniors, Connor Bedard, is that going to start up this year?
I couldn't tell you, Mario, just
Ooh.
because Connor Bedard is probably not going to play much. And
That's
I
where I was
know
going to.
it
Yeah.
sucks to say. I have a feeling he maybe can work it, like his way in, but as of right now, he's the 14th forward behind Logan Stankoven, and we should probably just formally introduce it. We're talking about this team over here, Team Canada.
Sir.
The usual favorites, like Jared and his like red flannel, as Canadian as it gets, Mario. I think that was done intentionally too. I'm
I
wearing
had read.
Yeah,
I
Canadian.
wore red.
I got Canadian. It's a Canadian brand on the back of my hat.
Well, I have a Canadian scarf, but I left it back where y'all are. So,
Yeah.
because I didn't need it, obviously. What?
Do they even
Brag
sell
and keep
scarves
brag.
there? Like
It was actually
winter ones?
from an LA Kings giveaway night.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's why. But getting back
That's why
to
there were so many.
to Team Canada. I'll start. I'll just let Evan go. Actually, you know what? Let's start with the defensive core, and then I'll give it to Evan. This is another team like Russia where they only took lefties on defense, which is kind of weird, especially considering you left a right-handed defenseman. Who would that be, Mr. Evan Davis? It would be
Brant Clark,
Brant
man.
Clark, LA Kings draft pick, which is weird because I like by all accounts, Brant Clark is a phenomenal human being. He is like a nice person, never had any locker room cancers. So unless something happened off the ice or politically, or maybe an undisclosed injury, which can't be because he was just playing with Barry, they just straight up left him off the team, which is really weird considering he was not only a right-handed defenseman, and they like literally don't have any on their roster. He's by far their best defenseman. And even if he's not, he's their number two defenseman behind like Hayden Gooley or Carson Lambos, or even Owen Power. I forgot about him. But that's actually who I wanted to turn it to. Evan, do you want to talk about Canada's defense? Maybe tell us why or what's going on here with Brant Clark, and maybe talk about Owen Power too. That's the big thing.
Yeah. Now that I'm like kind of looking at this roster a little bit more, I'm kind of understanding why they didn't take Brant Clark, because I'm just look, all the respect to Brant Clark, I actually don't know how much he would have played, because I do think guys like Carson Lambos, Caden Gould, Owen Power are a lot better than him. And I just don't think that it really, like, obviously depth is a key, and you want to have you want to have an abundance of riches. Maybe it was also just something like him and his agent looked at it like, I'm going to this tournament, I'm most likely going to be the fourth defenseman, maybe even the fifth. Where's the worth? Rather than continuing to play in Barrie, where he's the captain of the Colts, playing number 1 minutes, and maybe they figured that is more of a development for him. I mean, he'll definitely be there next year because Owen Power will most likely be in Buffalo. Carson Lambos is a Minnesota Wild draft pick. He'll most likely be maybe in Iowa or even in Minnesota. Caden Gooley, Montreal, he'll probably be in Laval or in Montreal, given the fact that Shea Weber's gone, so they really need another defenseman there. I mean, Owen Power's been great. I think the best thing that happened to him was staying in Michigan, which is what every draft pick did. Like Luke Hughes, Kent Johnson, Matty Beniers, they all stayed back. And I think that was just so perfect because obviously we know what's going on in Buffalo. I don't think that toxicity, and even just being in Rochester, like, I just don't think that was the best for him. And even just from a confidence standpoint, like, you're playing in Michigan, you're with your boys, you're putting up points, and the coach of Michigan is incredible. Like, I've met him personally. He's a great guy. Like, he scares the hell out of me, but he's like, I could see how like guys would want to go back and play for him. And Carson Lambos, I think, was a really, I think he was almost overlooked. I really like his defensive ability. I think Minnesota has a great option. You know, Jared Spurgeon's getting up there in age. I think Lambos can definitely come in there. Can I go into the offense, or are we
Why not? Shoot. Yeah.
Okay, well, this kind of leads me into my one issue with Canada is just lack of experience at the World Juniors, because they only are returning, I believe it's Cole Perfietti, I believe Mason McTavish. I'm trying to remember who the other one is. Maybe Owen Power is the other one, but I don't think
Power didn't. They're bringing back. I don't remember Maverick Bork. I think Dylan Gunther is a returning guy.
Gunther, maybe, yeah. But so they only have 3 guys that returned. Obviously, credit to them. A majority of them are in the NHL or playing. Like the teams just didn't want to let them go. So, and that could maybe also be the situation with Brant Clark, that Barry just didn't want to let him go, and he's already played with Canada. But my one issue is just lack of experience, but they got a lot of talent on this team. I think they definitely can pull it together. They still continue to have an abundance of riches. I remember, if you want to talk about the group chat, I do think Cole Perfietti can definitely win tournament MVP. He's been tearing it up in Manitoba. I think he was he I can't remember his junior team off the top of my head. My notes got taken away from me, but he's been tearing it up. He tore it up in juniors. Jake Neighbours, St. Louis draft pick, fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Mason McTavish. I mean, the Ducks have, you want to talk about abundance of riches. The Ducks have an abundance of riches with prospects. Mason McTavish was a fantastic pick. Kent Johnson's tearing it up at Michigan. I mean, they got some guys, and the fact that Connor Bedard somehow made this team, he probably won't play a lot. I would say anywhere between 5 and 6 minutes, and I think I'm being generous with that. I don't think he's really going to play. I think it's just perfect for him to be around those guys and to practice with those guys. I think he has zero use on the ice in terms of in games, but what it could do for him is incredible.
Well, I wouldn't call it zero. I think he's still a really good player.
Oh yeah, but he's not going to be impactful.
Yes,
is what I mean.
I don't think he'll be. He's still probably not.
That's what I meant. I shouldn't have worded it like that, but I don't think he's going to be impactful.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, Shane Wright, Shane Wright wasn't having the greatest season, I should say. In this last 5 games, he's put up, I think 11 points, which is friggin' ridiculous. But to start the season, he was a little bit cold. He's kind of picking it up now. You want to talk about Shane Wright a little bit? For anyone who doesn't know, he's going number 1 this year. And I know Jared's mentioned it a couple times, but why, Jared?
Just in general, he does everything right. You watch him play, he's just so smart out there. He's so skilled. Like he's dominant. He plays more, I guess, of I want to say sort of a defensive style, because he's not very flashy necessarily when you watch him, as much as he has his fair share of highlights. He very much plays like a smart, sort of like a defensive forward. He kind of, when he's out there, he reminds people by watching his highlights and him skating, whatever. He's not necessarily the fastest, but he looks a lot like a John Tavares, Patrice Bergeron kind of out there. But he just plays such a smart style of the game, while also putting up a ridiculous amount of points as well. And as much as, he was slow to start the year a little bit, so people want to create a storyline, there's going to be a storyline heading into the draft. Like, someone's going to have someone who's projected to maybe go slightly behind Shane Wright they're going to have a good tournament, and all of a sudden someone's going to try to create a storyline of, oh, did Shane Wright get played out of the first overall pick? Shane Wright's going first overall. Like they tried to create a Matthews Line debate. They tried to create a debate, but no, he just is such a good player. Like I don't exactly know specifically what it is about him. Just watching his highlights, looking at his stats, it appears he does everything right. And he's just one of these players that's been hyped up and talked about for years. Like there's some players that just all while they're growing up, maybe they're even 14, 15, their name's on the radar in TSN. Like already years ago, Shane Wright's name was being brought up. He got exceptional status for a reason, and he's going to slot in on this Team Canada team. Hopefully he has a good tournament. Hopefully he helps his draft stock. If he doesn't maybe play as good as we're expecting, obviously people are going to try to bring up a storyline, but I think no matter what, he is the solidified best player out of this draft. Whatever team ends up getting him, they are going to be very thankful for years to come, because he just is that good. He's such a smart player. He's very skilled. He does everything right, and I really like him. I'm really excited to get to watch him play more on Team Canada and kind of find out what specifically it is about him, because I'll admit, like, I haven't watched him too much. I don't exactly know what necessarily stands out, but it's just something about him when you watch him play. You could tell that guy is going to be a special player in the league. And I am so excited to get to watch him more throughout this tournament.
Yeah, I think during that Hlinka Gretzky tournament this summer, we saw, him and Connor Bedard absolutely tear it up. He scored boatloads of goals. And if I remember correctly, he broke something in his body and had a severe illness and I think an eye infection. Like he was ridiculous. He seriously was battling like three things.
No, I'm laughing that he's still tore, he's still destroyed.
He's ridiculous. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard him speak in an interview, but holy crap, we got another Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby-esque persona on our hands, because he is one of the, no offense, kid, and I say kid because you're friggin' younger than me, and I've watched you play, as a kid. You're boring as heck off the ice, and I don't want to attack you, but it's not a bad thing. I'm not it's just he's not a flashy player on the ice, not a flashy player on the ice. He goes about his business. He talks like a pro, and he's really good. And speaking of really good things, the betting odds to win this tournament will start in fourth, Finland at plus 697, which is actually pretty decent odds. Third, I should say, Russia plus 489. I don't know why these are such wild numbers, but plus 489 for Russia. Second, plus 337. Holy crap, 379 for the United States. And the betting favorites are the Canadians at plus 125 odds to win the gold. Mario, do you agree with Canada being the favorites? And do you think they can?
I do agree that they are the favorites. If they can, that is also something that has to be answered. And you guys mentioned all the names on the back of the jerseys. I think I'm going to go closer to the name on the front of the jersey. That is what Canada has to bring to this tournament. Now, everyone wants to see the storyline written in the stars, the articles, all that stuff about Canada making the finals and snagging revenge against the U.S. and winning that gold. U.S. getting silver and laughing in the faces of our fellow brother up on the screen there, Evan Davis. That's what everyone wants to see. All the fans want to see Canada beat U.S. Well, it's not that easy. And just like last season, they're going to need some big guys to step up in order to get to that gold medal stage. I think early success should concern Canadians, quite frankly, because last season we saw so much early success. We saw them cruise through the round robin thing, and this is what we found out. We learned two things: Devin Levi isn't human, and you can't expect to cruise throughout the group stage and expect results in the playoffs. The U.S., take them for example, they were terrific last tournament. Obviously, they won the gold medal. That's how you become a gold medal winner. They had to grind out wins. One of them against Finland, a tough team that's always a hard opponent to play against. And they even took a heartbreaking loss to the Russians in the group stage, but they found ways to bounce back. It's interesting to see how this back end is going to react without a right-handed defenseman as they cut Brent Clark, like you guys mentioned before. And their depth in goal is also something to look out for. But they're big, they're fast, they're talented. They all play a 200-foot game. So it's going to be really interesting how this team comes together player-wise, but I need to see them all form together and become more of a team if they want to get that gold medal and maybe even get a second date and a second chance against that U.S. team.
I like that you mentioned coming together and uniting as a team, because that's something I find the Russians actually do pretty well. They just under what's his name? Oh my God, who's the coach there? Is it Igor Larionov? I think it's Igor Larionov as their coach.
For Russia?
Wrong. Yeah.
I
think it's Igor Larionov.
Yeah.
He's always had them under one system, and they buy into it, and that's why I think they're so good. Even though you look at Russia and they have not that many NHL draft picks compared to Canada, where they're all drafted except for Shane Wright, who's about to go first, and Bedard, who's also about to go first. That's a really good point. It's about unity. And at that point, we're just kind of guessing. That's maybe another reason. Maybe I had the States a little bit too low, seeing these guys all played at the USNDP, and now friggin' half of them are at Michigan, or at least playing in that Big Ten. So we've kind of went through, I think we said everything on Canada.